Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel and for another video about how introverts can succeed in the business world. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of work-life balance for introverts. Let's get into it. So for today's video, I'm going to talk about 4 different categories that I feel are the most important when it comes to work-life balance. As someone who's lived this and tried multiple ways to get this to work for me as an introvert, and to see where those successes were and where those failures are. So what I've done with these 4 categories is separate it into a new employee and an existing employee, just so we can kind of cover a lot of the bases depending on where you guys are in your career, whether you're just graduating high school or college and you're going into your first role, or you're an introvert who's been in the game a long time, 15, 20, 25 years, and you're at an existing company, or you've moved to another company and you're trying to establish these categories that we're going to talk about so you can have a healthy work-life balance. So the first one we're going to talk about is, of course, boundaries. I talked a little bit about this in creating a quiet space at work video, and I'll post a card up there so you can take a look at that one. That one's more focused on how do you create a space inside of work. And so this video is about how do we set those boundaries outside of work. And for new employees, you really have the advantage here because you could do this right off the bat as a brand new employee. And what I mean by that is that you can immediately ignore your emails and your phone calls and your text messages. So that's easier said than done. But one of the advantages you have as a new employee is a lot of people don't have your email address or don't know who you are, so they're not going to look you up in the internal system. And the same thing with your phone number. A lot of people aren't going to be calling or texting you after work hours. So it's easy for you to ignore those. And if you get in the routine of not answering those after work, eventually those are going to drop off. So if you're a new employee, that's an advantage. Now on the flip side, for an existing employee, you have a little bit more of a struggle there because you've been around longer, people know who you are, people know how to get a hold of you during the workday. So if you're a guy that or girl that answers texts rather than phone calls or vice versa, or you always keep your internal messaging app open on your computer and you're more likely to answer that, people are going to go to that even after hours. So if you get to that point where you're starting to get bothered more and more after work hours, you can start ignoring them too. But if they're close enough, more like a work friend, right? You can tell them that, like, hey, I'm really trying to work on setting boundaries. This stuff is going to have to wait, until the next day, unless it's super urgent. The second thing you can do is don't book meetings later than when you want to stop working. And by that I mean that 4 to 5 o'clock range in the afternoon. I want to have meetings end at that time, right? Nothing after that. And so if someone tries to schedule something right at the end of the day because they claim this is the only time where everyone was free, well, yeah, everyone's free because they're trying to go home. So don't accept those meetings, right? And if it's someone who's close to you, then let them know, hey, I don't work past these hours. I'm not setting any meetings. I'm not going to send you any meetings this late. Let's try to find something that's earlier in the day on another day of the week. And if it's something you don't really know, and you don't really see a need to be an active participant in that meeting, you can decline the meeting, right? It's not the end of the world. So that's our first category. Second category is prioritization of your tasks. So again, when you're new, you can really lean on your boss for this. And you can ask them, what are my most important tasks? And if there's deadlines attached to them, help me with those deadlines so I can figure out what I need to be working on first, what I can work on in my free time. And then that allows you to basically work in chunks where you can focus on the high importance, highly detailed work, and then you can work on some of the other stuff, in between those gaps, or before or after lunch, or more in the afternoon. And that just helps you focus a little bit instead of thinking that everything is high energy. If you're an established employee, you are more or less going to have what I call dailies, right? Those are going to be your reoccurring meetings that you have on your calendar, whether they're weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, things that are happening all the time, every week, and they're just basically sitting on your calendar whenever you look at it. And they're standing meetings, essentially. What you can do is prioritize in your gaps what you need to be working on and what's less important, because you've been around longer, you kind of know who is asking for it, and depending on who that is, the importance of that task. And the reason that's important for work-life balance is because the key is to work on these things during the work hours, right? If we set our prioritization correctly, we're going to be able to get this stuff done during the working hours, and we're not going to feel like we need to be working on this after hours because we need to hit a deadline. So we're going to go back to the beginning and make sure that we set up our time correctly in the first place. All right, the third block. This goes for new employees and established employees, and it's self-care. So a lot of the people that I work with use their lunch hour as the time to go to the gym, right? So they'll kind of like either eat lunch on the way to the gym or eat lunch on the way back, but their lunch hour essentially, loosely, is their time to go to the gym, and they really try to stick to it. So again, unless it's highly important or super critical that there needs to be a meeting over lunch, if it's with a customer or a client, then we'll make accommodations. But regardless of what time it is, I work out in the morning. There's a lot of people that work out late at night. And self-care doesn't have to be working out, right? Self-care could be taking time for yourself. So that could actually be leaving the office to go eat lunch. Even if you're bringing your lunch from home, like you're leaving the office to go eat your lunch somewhere, right? Or that's engaging in your hobby, like one of the last video that I just posted about a solo activity. You want to have that time for yourself. So again, that goes back to prioritization. So if we have our tasks set up and we know that we can get those done during the work hours, we're not going to bring that home and sacrifice our self-care time, our solo activity time, because we have to work on work-related tasks. So it's highly important for you guys to stick to a schedule that you keep for yourself. And if you need to tell other people, especially your boss, like during this hour, this is what I'm doing during this hour, and just so they know, right? Through complete transparency. Is it highly important to your boss? No. Is it highly important to you? Yes. And that's what your boss needs to understand. Okay. And then the last category is flexible work environments. And this goes for both employees. There's a little bit of a difference, because if you're a new employee and you don't know the type of environment you're stepping into, maybe they talked about it during the interview process, and you might have a full in the office role. There's no harm in asking if there's any leverage, not leverage, that's not the best word. If there's any leeway that you have with your work schedule to maybe do 1 or 2 days at home. And if you're an established employee, you already know, based off of what positions in that company there are, some of them are going to have work from home, some of them are going to be considered critical, so they're going to have to be on location every day. And depending on your role, right, it could be a mix of both. So there might be a little bit easier for you to just step into that role, or just kind of let your boss know, hey, can I try doing this work from home thing maybe 1 or 2 times a week. And the reason this is important for work-life balance is because you get to step away from all of the extra people, because us as introverts, we all know that we need some time alone. And even if we're working and we're working alone, that allows us to focus on those individual tasks without being bothered by a bunch of people throughout the day. And then you can kind of ignore the other messages or emails that you have if you have your working time blocked out, and then you can just focus on that. The hard part about working from home, which is typically what I do now, is you have to learn how to set a start time and an end time for yourself. right? There are general recommendations for when you need to start your day based off of your company, whether you're 8 to 4 or 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever it is. You're ultimately going to be setting your schedule if you work from home, right? And you're going to have to be productive. The hardest part that I had to learn is setting a time where I need to start. So whatever I do in the morning, right? Working out, breakfast, getting the kids ready for school, all that stuff. I know that I need to be up in my office at a certain time because I need to stick to that sort of routine. And then the flip side of that is at the end of the day, I need to have a cutoff period where at whatever time that happens to be, at the end of the day, I need to get up and leave my office. And that helps me mentally break away from, okay, this is my work area and I'm gonna go be with family now, or I need to go help the kids with their homework. But whatever it is, it's out of this office. So you can kind of create that office environment, but you're working from home, and that can help us as introverts. So there you have it. It's a shorter video. If anybody has any additional things that they do in terms of helping them with a work-life balance as an introvert, please comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see everybody on the next video. Bye.